There is a moment every governing body dreads, not a single bad decision. Those are survivable, forgettable even, gone from the headlines within a week. What FIFA dreaded was this: a match so contentious, so packed with borderline calls breaking in a single direction, that even neutral fans stopped debating individual decisions and started debating the system itself. Spain versus France was that match, and if you've been paying attention to this tournament at all, you already know why that sentence should worry FIFA more than any single scandal could. Let's set the scene properly because context is everything here. Spain and France arrived at this fixture as arguably the two most talented squads left in the competition, fast, technical, aggressive in transition, the kind of matchup neutrals circle on the calendar months in advance. Nobody expected a boring game. What nobody expected either was that the story leaving the stadium wouldn't be about a moment of individual brilliance, but about four separate refereeing decisions that fans, pundits, and even former officials are still arguing about. So let's go through them one at a time in order because the pattern only becomes visible when you see the full sequence. Decision 1, the disallowed opener. 22 minutes in, Spain worked a gorgeous team goal. Patient build-up, a give-and-go through the middle, a first-time finish that had the away end already celebrating before the ball hit the net. Video review flagged an offside in the build-up, not on the goal scorer, but 2 passes earlier, on a player who by most broadcast angles looked level, maybe even a fraction onside. The calibrated offside line, the semi-automated technology FIFA has spent years promoting as the solution to exactly this kind of dispute, put him marginally offside, millimeters. The kind of margin that exists in theory more than in any way a human eye could ever perceive live. Now here's the thing about that call in isolation: it's defensible. The technology did what it was built to do. If the line says offside, by the letter of the rule, it's offside, no matter how thin the margin. Nobody's accusing FIFA of manufacturing that specific line, but defensible in isolation and defensible in context are two very different things, and context is exactly what turned this from a footnote into a flashpoint. Decision 2, the penalty that wasn't. 11 minutes later, France broke forward on the counter and a French attacker went down inside the box under what looked, on first viewing, like clear contact from a trailing Spanish defender. The referee waved play on immediately, no whistle, no signal to the video booth, nothing. It took a full 2 minutes and a flood of confused reactions from the France bench before the review room even acknowledged there was contact worth checking. When they finally did check, the review upheld the on-field call. No penalty, contact deemed minimal, attacker judged to have initiated the fall. Former referees who broke this down afterward were split, which itself tells you something. Some argued the contact was genuinely marginal, the kind of shirt pull that happens 40 times a match and rarely gets called anywhere. Others pointed out that an almost identical passage of play in the very same match had already been reviewed and punished when it happened in Spain's favor rather than France's. 2 contact situations, similar magnitude, different outcomes, 19 minutes apart. That's not proof of anything on its own, but it's the second data point in what was quickly becoming a pattern, and patterns are what fans remember, not individual frames of contact. Decision 3, the second yellow that never came. Just past the hour mark, a Spanish midfielder committed what most broadcasters immediately flagged as a clear, cynical foul to stop a French counterattack, the kind of tactical foul that referees are explicitly instructed to punish with a card precisely because it's designed to kill dangerous transitions. The player had already picked up a first yellow in the opening half for a similar challenge. By most reasonable readings of the disciplinary guidelines circulated to every official this tournament, that's a second yellow, a red card, and Spain finishing the match with 10 men. Instead, nothing. Not even a foul was whistled cleanly. The referee played advantage, the France attack fizzled out without the numbers it should have had, and the review booth, remarkably, didn't intervene on a decision that many considered one of the clearest missed cards of the entire tournament. FIFA's disciplinary panel doesn't typically comment on individual non-decisions like this, but the silence itself became part of the story. When something is that visible, that widely flagged by professional analysts within minutes and still goes unaddressed, it stops looking like an oversight and starts looking like something fans feel entitled to ask harder questions about. Decision 4, the stoppage time handball review, and then, as if the match hadn't already generated enough controversy, stoppage time delivered the moment that pushed everything over the edge. A cross into the box struck a Spanish defender on the arm, close range, arm not obviously in an unnatural position but definitely visible contact. The video assistant referee recommended a review. The on-field referee walked to the monitor, watched the replay from two separate angles, and awarded the penalty. France converted. Final whistle moments later. Spain, who had led for most of the second half, left the pitch having been denied a clean opening goal on a millimeter margin, and then conceded a stoppage-time equalizer on a call that, to many eyes, looked softer than the penalty denied to France earlier in the same match. Spain's manager didn't hold back in the post-match press conference, calling it the most inconsistent 90 minutes of officiating he'd witnessed in years of international football, and pointedly asking reporters to go back and compare the two handball and contact decisions side by side. His captain was more measured but no less pointed, saying simply that the same standard needs to apply in minute 22 and minute 90 plus 3, and that fans deserve to know why it so often doesn't. Before we get to the verdict, it's worth pausing on something that got buried under the controversy. The football itself, for long stretches, was genuinely excellent. Spain's midfield triangle strangled possession for the first half hour in a way that made France look uncharacteristically rattled. France's response after the equalizing chances started arriving was sharp, direct, exactly the kind of vertical football that's made them so dangerous all tournament. If you strip away every review and just watch the passages of open play, this was one of the best 90 minutes the competition has produced. That matters because it's part of why the controversy landed so hard. Nobody wanted this particular match to be remembered for its officiating. Everybody watching wanted to talk about the football, and instead we're here, again, talking about review delays and offside lines. It's also worth addressing something that's been circulating heavily online since the final whistle. The claim that the semi-automated offside technology itself is fundamentally flawed, not just applied inconsistently. That's a separate argument from the one about referee bias, and it deserves to be treated separately. The technology works by tracking limb positions using an array of cameras and a connected ball with a sensor inside it, calculating an offside line to a level of precision no human eye could replicate live. Critics argue that precision is actually the problem, that football was never meant to be adjudicated to the millimeter, that the sport's flow and spirit are being sacrificed for a kind of mathematical certainty nobody asked for. Defenders of the system counter that the alternative, human judgment on incredibly fast, incredibly close calls, produced far more inconsistency in previous tournaments, and that a millimeter is a millimeter regardless of how uncomfortable that feels emotionally. Neither side is wrong exactly. It's a genuine philosophical disagreement about what football is supposed to feel like, dressed up as a technical dispute about calibration. That tension, more than any single decision in this match, might be the actual long-term story of this tournament. VAR was sold to fans as a tool for eliminating exactly the kind of controversy we're discussing right now. Instead, 4 tournaments in, it's arguably generated more sustained controversy than the blown calls it was designed to prevent, precisely because every decision now comes with slow-motion replay, expert panel breakdown, and millions of fans relitigating it in real time on social media. The technology didn't remove human judgment from the sport. It just moved that judgment into a review booth and added a delay, and in doing so it raised expectations of perfect consistency that the sport, being played by humans and officiated by humans, was never actually going to deliver. So where does the truth actually sit? This is the part where we have to be honest, because it would be easy, and frankly it would probably get more views, to simply declare all 4 decisions part of a deliberate pattern and move on. But that's not what actually happened here, and pretending otherwise does a disservice to what's actually a more uncomfortable and more interesting truth. Individually, 3 of these 4 decisions have a real technical defense. The offside line, however thin, is the system working as designed. The missed second yellow is a genuine officiating error, but errors of omission happen in every match at every level of the sport. That's not evidence of bias, that's evidence of human referees, under pressure making a mistake in real time. The stoppage time handball similarly sits within a defensible reading of the handball law, even if it looked soft compared to earlier non-decisions. What's much harder to defend is the missed penalty review in the 11th minute, not because the no penalty call was necessarily wrong, but because of how long it took the review process to even engage with a passage of play that produced immediate, visible reactions from an entire bench. That delay, more than any single verdict, is what fueled the sense that something in the review process itself isn't operating with the consistency FIFA has spent years promising. And that's really the deeper story here, the one that should actually worry FIFA far more than any single blown call. This tournament has already spent significant credibility on decisions that broke in similarly uncomfortable directions in previous matches: reverse suspensions, inconsistent foul thresholds, review delays that never quite get explained. None of those prior incidents prove this match was manipulated, but they've created an environment where every subsequent close call gets read through the lens of everything that came before it. A missed second yellow that might have been shrugged off in isolation becomes instead, exhibit whatever number, we're up to now in a case that millions of fans feel they've already made up their minds about. That's the actual worst-case scenario for FIFA. Not a single scandal which can be managed, apologized for, quietly corrected in a memo nobody reads. It's the erosion of the assumption of good faith, the moment when fans stop asking, "Was this call right?" and start assuming the answer before the replay even finishes buffering. Once that shift happens, it's remarkably hard to reverse, because it doesn't matter how many decisions actually go the wrong team's way afterward. The narrative has already calcified. So here's the actual question worth asking, and I genuinely want to know what you think. Is this really a systemic problem with how VAR is being applied at this tournament? Inconsistent thresholds, inconsistent review speeds, inconsistent willingness to intervene depending on which team is affected? Or is this simply what happens when a fan base primed by weeks of prior controversy looks at an ordinary set of imperfect human decisions and reads a conspiracy into what's actually just referees being fallible, the same as they've always been, just now with more cameras pointed at every mistake than ever before in the sport's history? Both readings are defensible, both have real evidence behind them, and honestly, the fact that reasonable people can look at the exact same 90 minutes and land in completely different places is itself the clearest sign of how badly this tournament needs a consistency fix before the knockout stages get even higher stakes than this. Drop your take in the comments. Genuinely curious whether you think this was inconsistency, bias, or just football being football under more scrutiny than it's ever had. And if you think I missed a decision that deserves its own breakdown, tell me which one, because at this rate, this tournament is giving us new material every single week. Spain move forward with a legitimate grievance and a manager who isn't backing down from saying so publicly. France advance with a result that will always carry an asterisk in the minds of anyone who watched those first 22 minutes unfold. And FIFA, for its part, now has to answer a question that's only going to get louder the deeper this tournament goes. At what point does inconsistent officiating stop being an excuse and start being the story itself? One more thing before you go, because I think it matters more than the 4 individual decisions we just broke down. Every tournament produces controversial calls. That's not new, and it's not going away no matter how much technology gets thrown at the problem. What's different this time is the speed at which those individual moments are getting stitched together into a single narrative, match after match, decision after decision, until the conversation isn't really about football anymore. It's about trust. And trust, once a fan base decides it's gone, doesn't come back because of one clean, uncontroversial 90 minutes. It comes back, if it comes back at all, only after a long stretch of officiating so consistent that people simply stop looking for the pattern. Whether this tournament gets there before the final is played is genuinely an open question, and it's one FIFA has far more control over than they seem to be acting like right now. Subscribe if you want the next breakdown the moment it happens, because judging by how this tournament has gone so far, there's a very good chance we'll be back here again before the week is out.